But he was not looking at dear old uncle as he made the fervent remark, for he saw only the slender blonde girl nearby, and stretched out his hands to meet hers, forgetful of the green water tumbling between them. During the confusion that reigned for a moment as the steamer settled to her moorings, Rose looked down into the four faces upturned to hers, and seemed to read in them something that both pleased and pained her. It was only a glance, and her own eyes were full, but through the mist of happy tears she received the impression that Archie was about the same, that Mac had decidedly improved, and that something was amiss with Charlie. There was no time for observation, however, for in a moment the shoreward rush began, and before she could grasp her travelling bag, Jamie was clinging to her like an ecstatic young bear. She was with difficulty released from his embrace to fall into the gentler ones of the elder cousins, who took advantage of the general excitement to welcome both blooming girls with affectionate impartiality. Then the wanderers were borne ashore in a triumphal procession, while Jamie danced rapturous jigs before them even on the gangway. Archie remained to help his uncle get the luggage through the custom-house, and the others escorted the damsels home. No sooner were they shut up in a carriage, however, than a new and curious constraint seemed to fall upon the young people, for they realized all at once that their former playmates were men and women now. Fortunately, Jamie was quite free from this feeling of restraint, and sitting bodkin-wise between the ladies, took all sorts of liberties with them and their belongings. "Well, my mannikin, what do you think of us?" asked Rose, to break an awkward pause. "You've both grown so pretty I can't decide which I like best. Phoebe is the biggest and brightest looking, and I was always fond of Phoebe, but somehow you are so kind of sweet and precious, I really think I must hug you again." And the small youth did it tempestuously. "If you love me best, I shall not mind a bit about your thinking Phoebe the handsomest, because she is. Isn't she, boys?" asked Rose, with a mischievous look at the gentleman opposite, whose faces expressed a respectful admiration which much amused her. "I'm so dazzled by the brilliancy and beauty that has suddenly burst upon me, I have no words to express my emotions," answered Charlie, gallantly dodging the dangerous question. "I can't say yet, for I've not had time to look at anyone. I will now, if you don't mind." And to the great amusement of the rest, Mac gravely adjusted his eyeglasses and took an observation. "Well," said Phoebe, smiling and blushing under his honest stare, yet seeming not to resent it, as she did the lordly sort of approval which made her answer the glance of Charlie's audacious blue eyes with a flash of her black ones. "I think if you were my sister, I should be very proud of you, because your face shows what I admire more than its beauty." "Truth and courage, Phoebe," answered Mac, with a little bow full of such genuine respect that surprise and pleasure brought a sudden dew to quench the fire of the girl's eyes and soothe the sensitive pride of the girl's heart. Rose clapped her hands just as she used to do when anything delighted her, and beamed at Mac approvingly as she said, "Now that's a criticism worth having, and we are much obliged. I was sure you'd admire my Phoebe when you knew her, but I didn't believe you would be wise enough to see it at once, and you have gone up many pegs in my estimation, I assure you. I was always fond of mineralogy, you remember, and I've been tapping round a good deal lately, so I've learned to know precious metals when I see them," Mac said with his shrewd smile. "That is the last hobby, then. Your letters have amused us immensely, for each one had a new theory or experiment, and the latest was always the best. I thought Uncle would have died of laughter over the vegetarian mania. It was so funny to imagine you living on bread and milk, baked apples and potatoes roasted in your own fire," continued Rose, changing the subject again. "This old chap was the laughing-stock of his class. They called him Don Quixote, and the way he went at wind..."